You are listening to and or watching the Built Different podcast, and I have the privilege of sitting down with Jess Fuller and Annie Berdar, the co-owners of the women-owned, women-led Bear Blends. It's great to chat with you both.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to be in the new store, and as we're recording this, twas the night before the grand opening.
Yeah.
That's right. It was.
Yeah, and it's very exciting, and can't wait to talk about all things Bear Blends with you. But Jess, you this week really made a powerful announcement, and you shared publicly the cancer diagnosis you've been going through. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to just talk about what you've seen, what you've heard from the community so far.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I shared the news yesterday on October 1st for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it's something I privately have been dealing with for 7 months now. I'm a private person, so when I first found out, I didn't really know if anybody would ever know outside of my immediate family and very close friends. But pretty quickly, I realized that there are so many women that follow Bear Blends and follow the Hot Yoga Spot, and that just like I didn't know when this year started that I could get cancer, that I could get breast cancer with no family history. I was like, there's got to be other women out there that don't know this. So I've realized pretty early on that this was something that I wanted to help other people find out about, even if it was scary and even if it really meant stepping outside of my comfort zone. So that's what I did. And it's been amazing. I mean, yesterday I heard from so many people, like overwhelming. I mean, I was sobbing all day yesterday with like the messages I was getting and the shares that it was getting, and people commenting on the post that they were making their doctor's appointments and they were getting their screenings, and I mean, it was so overwhelming and very emotional. And I'm super grateful that people like related to my message and heard what I was saying. And I'm just hopeful that a lot of women out there will understand the potential to get breast cancer and like the stats behind it way more than I did when this year started, and hopefully, live a better, healthier life because of it.
Well, thank you so much for having the courage to share with the world, with the capital region, all fans of the Hot Yoga Spot and Bear Blends, just everything that you have gone through and are going through. And I just want to transition to you, Annie. What was your reaction when you found out about this for the first time?
Yeah. So I knew pretty much the day that Jess found out. So I've been holding on to it for as long as she's been holding on to it. And I think my initial reaction was just pure shock, honestly, because I know how healthy she is and I know how much she cares about her health and how on top of all of those things she is. And, she's like been plant-based for so many years. She works out every day. Like, she takes care of her health and, does her due diligence there. And she's so young too, right? So like, to me, it just sounded so unreal. And I just remember her telling me and getting very, she was very, very emotional. And I was like stone cold because of that like, I just couldn't believe that it was real. And I guess like mentally, I didn't want to believe it was real. And I just felt in that moment, like, deep down, I kind of knew that she was going to be okay and she was going to come out of this on the other side. Like, I just had this feeling, and I just felt like in that moment I really needed to be strong for her. So, I've been thinking that ever since she told me. It's just, I know that she's going to overcome this. I'm so grateful that she caught it so early. And yeah, I mean, it hasn't been easy. I mean, for her, it's been so challenging. It's been a lot for sure. I don't want to, I'm going to like get emotional, but
yeah, it's a powerful topic.
No, I mean, I think like for the first time a couple weeks ago, I had this moment where I was like, what would life without Jess be like? I had like a very, very horrible thought. And I was like, I cannot picture my life without her. Like, she's so much more than just a friend. She's my business partner. She's my best friend. She's like family at this point. And I just couldn't imagine like not having her here. And so I think like, it's just so amazing what you're doing, like sharing your story and helping other women learn more about your diagnosis and how to, go about these kinds of things and hopefully prevent, it from happening to them in the future. So a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you shared a lot about kind of the journey of thinking through your own processing of it and what did it mean for you, your family, but as just friends and business partners, what were those conversations like early on, and how has that evolved, just talking through like what this means for the two of you as friends and as business partners?
I mean, to be honest, the only thing there is for me when it comes to this is my family. And I love you as much as I could ever love a friend, but like I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. Like that's where this ends for me, you know? So everything and I'm sure any parent out there watching this can relate, like every single thing I've done in the last 7 months has been to the end of like, what can I do to be there for my kids at the end of the day? And my husband, who's been like absolutely amazing. I mean, he's had to do things for me in the last 7 months that I never would have wanted him to do, never thought he would have to do. And he's done them. And like, I don't want to say happily because nothing about this has been super happy, but he's done them. And when it comes to finding out that I had this, like the only thing that I've thought about is like, what can I do to still be there for my kids at the end of the day? And I am super grateful that I think they caught it early. They think they caught it early. I really believe at this point that I'm going to be okay. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said that like there was more to this for me than that. Like it's my kids and my husband is like 99% of, I mean, it just is what it is. And I love you so much.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's just the reality,
Yeah.
like, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, in the post, you talked about both the Bare Blends community and the Hot Yoga Spot community. And I know that's still a relationship that sometimes people don't quite understand, that, you know, you own the Hot Yoga Spot and you co-own Bare Blends. And there obviously is a lot of strategic locations of Bare Blends that are near Hot Yoga Spot locations, but your relationship really began with the Hot Yoga Spot, from what I understand.
It did,
And I would love to hear more about that, just the early stages of how you two really met and connected.
Yeah. So Annie had been a student at the Hot Yoga Spot when she used to go to St. Rose.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. And she did our teacher training program. And toward the end of teacher training, she wanted to teach yoga classes for us. So we got together. At the same time, the space next door to the Hot Yoga Spot had come available. It was up for lease. And I always loved the idea of having like a really healthy food concept that the yogis could just like grab something healthy on their way out the door, because people come to the Hot Yoga Spot and they're moving and they're breathing and they're sweating and they're doing something that's great for them. But nutrition is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to your overall health. And there weren't really any options like Bare Blends in the community. So it's something I was interested in, but I don't know anything about food. I mean, I know how to eat it, but more than that, I don't know anything about it.
It tastes good.
Right, it tastes good. That looks bad. Yeah. So Annie and I were having a conversation about teaching at the studio, and it just so happened that it came up in conversation. You know, I asked what she wanted to do long term, and she was like, I want to own a vegan cafe. I took all these business classes. I love food. I love food photography, like all of these things that were skills I didn't have that seemed like a match made in heaven. And we hit it off really quickly and decided really quickly that we wanted to work together long term. And honestly, I'm so glad we did. And to go back to the question you just asked a moment ago, I don't think we had any formal conversations related to the business with everything that I've been going through with my health. But that being said, like Annie has stepped up so much and done so much for Bare. I mean, I'm still actively working, but like I had a major surgery and I've been undergoing chemotherapy, and like those things are not easy. And Annie, without us having formal conversations about it, has stepped up and done so many things that I've been unable to do in the last few months, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So they weren't really formal conversations, but that's like the type of friend she is. That's the type of business partner that she is. And like I mean, everything you see in this beautiful new location, stuff she kind of helped bring to fruition. So it's not lost on me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And so as you went through that experience of kind of deciding to go into business together, you and I were talking before we started recording about kind of that early first store. What are some of your memories about that first store?
Yeah. I loved that first store. I mean, obviously I love the business still. There was something about like having that first baby where I was like, this is just so incredible. And like, it was really like the first time where I was able to like bring my vision to life. And that is such a magical feeling. And then I remember the first day that we opened, I think we did like $700 in sales or something. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be zillionaires. I was like, I was like, wow. Like people like, it's so crazy to say this now, you know, but I was like,
Annie, calm down.
Yeah. You were like, okay. I was like, no, you don't understand. We made $700 off of smoothies that I created. And it's like this moment of just like pure joy. And I think right before we unlocked the door, I was like, I don't know who's going to come here. Like it's on the backside of a plaza. Like, you know, what's going to happen? I don't know. But there was this moment of like, it's like, you're so vulnerable, like putting your creation out to people that you don't know. And I was so nervous about the feedback. I remember being so nervous that first day and being like, everybody's going to hate this. What are they going to think? Or like, maybe people will like it. I don't know. Like, I just didn't know. And I remember just being so nervous about that. And then after that first day, I mean, it was, you know, such a tiny amount of sales, but I remember just being like, okay, we can do this. We can. And then, you know, there were a bunch of different things that happened back there. Like we learned a lot about our operation. We learned that we couldn't really work behind a 10-foot counter if we wanted to serve as many people as we ended up serving a day. But yeah, I mean, that space is very special and it was magical. And honestly, like I loved being connected to the hot yoga spot. You know, we had like a built-in clientele. And I think initially, like, I kind of took that for granted, you know, like the hot yoga spot truly is what helped build this brand.
You know what else is so crazy about that first location? And we've never talked about it. And I don't know if I ever even really thought about it until this moment, like watching you two connect. But that first location, you and I would see each other and be together like every day.
Every day.
And this is pre-COVID. I was always at the hot yoga spot, like all day, every day. You were always at that Bear location all day, every day. So like we would just like run into each other and have fun with each other and joke around with each other and eat bowls with each other. And I never even really thought about the fact that like that was the only time, because now there's so many locations and you know, that was the only time we really were like just seeing each other and having fun with each other every single day. And now we talk all the time. We're closer now than we were then because we've known each other so long. But it's funny to think about.
Yeah, you know? That was really,
let's go back to just one location.
Yeah, great. Let's bring it back. After like, let's tear it all down, remove it to the back. No, that was great too. Like I remember we would have the hot yoga spot students place the pre-orders. Yeah. And it was so easy. Like we would order at check-in and Jess would like force everyone to order a smoothie. And then
force is a strong word.
Oh, you want a smoothie, don't you? You know?
Strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged, incentivized to no end. And we would make them and then, you know, walk 10 feet and be able to deliver them to everybody who wanted them right after class. And that was like so magical too. I loved that. Yeah.
Well, it's funny to me because I always actually mention to people that you still do some bar classes and like hot vinyasa classes in Saratoga. Of course. Because I always think too, like bar with Annie Berdar. I mean, it sells itself.
Oh my God, how am I not using that?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
That's great.
You can't take Nick's
Can we put that on a t-shirt?
I'm still trying to work on Bad Boys Do Bar. That's a whole separate thing. People aren't quite there yet.
That too.
Yeah, real men do hot yoga. People I think are ready for. Yeah.
And Bad Boys Do Bar.
Bad Boys Do Bar.
Let's do it.
I just want a tank top. That's all I really want. But
I'll make you a tank top.
But in all seriousness, I'm really interested, and I think a lot of people are interested. You're two small business owners, women-owned, women-led. You've built this brand now to multiple locations in multiple states. So can you talk to me about kind of the journey of how that all unfolded? You opened the first store. You're killing it with $700 in that first day. So how do you go from that to multiple locations here in the capital region and in Colorado and Massachusetts and Florida?
Yeah. I think, you know, when we opened that first store, we surpassed the $700 a day mark, you know, at one point, and it was great. I mean, we were super successful. And I just thought, you know, if we could be this successful on the backside of a plaza in Albany, New York, with no visibility and largely just the clientele that's coming from the hot yoga spot. And then, of course, you know, word got out that we existed and, you know, it kind of spread like wildfire and we were so busy. But I was like, you know, if it can work here, this can work in every market, you know? And so then Jess and I just ended up having the conversation because she was franchising the hot yoga spot at that time. And she had gone through that whole experience. And then we had the conversation, like, if this could be so successful, like, we should make this available to other people because this is a great business model. It's fairly simple. Like, you know, when we had the conversation about franchising, and then it kind of just developed from there.
Yeah. Do you remember some of those initial conversations with some of your prospective franchise owners? Like, what was that like to think through as the two of you? What are our values and what types of partners do we want to be our franchise owners?
Have you ever seen the documentary Founder?
Yes.
About McDonald's?
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember, like, there's a point in that documentary where McDonald's franchises for the first time, and they sell a location to a very wealthy family who, like, isn't necessarily involved really in the day-to-day operations, and they're operating, I believe, out of Texas or one of those, maybe New Mexico, far away from the mothership. And the location starts selling tacos. Right. And I remember watching that part of the Founder and feeling just like, I get it. And that's really, I think, if you interview franchisors, especially like budding franchisors, that exact thing happens in the very beginning. Because to answer your question, I don't think we had those thoughts, right? I think we were just like, we have this concept that's great. And if we can do it, anyone can do it. And anyone who wants to be involved in health and wellness can do it. And like, look, you know, we proved it out. Let's bring it everywhere. And it wasn't like, the initial conversations weren't necessarily about who exactly do we want to work with to grow this brand. I think it was more like, who's interested in wanting to be a part of this, and can we continue to grow it with more people? And I think we've learned along the way that, like, there are some people that really jive well in this brand, and there are some that obviously don't, just like anything else in life. And I think you learn a lot about franchising in the first 10 to 15 locations for sure. Now I think we could answer that, you know, in a different way. Like, I know, you know, what qualities I look for in somebody when I want to work with them, because I've worked with that type of person that I want to continue to work with, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think, to Jess, maybe pivot this question a little bit more to you. One of the factors that I see across the board from your Bear Blends locations is a real emphasis on community engagement.
Yeah.
And finding ways to collaborate with different wellness brands or fitness brands. And you've certainly had that approach here in the capital region and beyond. What has guided that approach for you? Because you have that approach with the hot yoga spot as well. You collaborate with everybody.
Yeah.
How have you seen that benefit, not just from a business perspective, but from your own, you know, sense of self as a human?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always believed in the power of community and the strength in community. It's so big in the yoga world, and I mean, the hot yoga spot now has been in existence since 2010, and I am the first one to say, like, we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have the teaching team that we had. If we didn't, I mean, we have some students who were students at our very first location that still take class with us every day, and I think for any business to be able to say that is such a rare thing.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for it. It's not lost on me. So I think that's something that, and then even like Annie said before, when we opened Bear, so much of Bear's early success was because the hot yoga spot was right next door. And because I had amazing friends at different businesses in the capital region, different fitness businesses that were like, yeah, bring Bear here. I'll introduce it to I'll introduce it to the people at my gym or at my spinning place or at my CrossFit, you know, location. And I think seeing how much community helped both a hot yoga spot and Bear from the start, like, it's a no-brainer to continue that forward. And I mean, really, so much of what we do too is because we want to help people.
Yeah.
Like, that's so much of even why I made my announcement the other day. Like, I've made a career out of having wellness businesses and helping people. Like, we want to help people. Eating plant-based is better for you. It's better for the environment. Like,
Yeah.
we really believe in it. So even just from like a personal standpoint, why would we not want the community to be involved in that? And why would we not want to do it as big as possible and like as impactful way as possible?
Yeah.
And you're thinking about community, but also obviously there's customers from community. And as you've gotten to be more engaged in the community and your different markets that you operate in, How has that engagement translated to having a better sense of who your customers are and connecting with more people like that?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think so from like a a marketing perspective, the type of customer that cares about health and wellness typically cares about eating well and working out. So I think naturally for us, like the partnerships with the fitness businesses were a good place to start and to see, okay, are these people really interested in eating this type of food? And, then you start to learn more about, how many times do they come visit you? And is this the model, for lack of a better term, of like the person that would come and continue to, enjoy food at our business. But I will say too, like working with community, like I sit on the board for United Way. And so giving back to community was always so important to me, especially because we focus a lot of our efforts in the areas where there is food insecurity. And that's something that like really matters a lot to me. And I don't think that those like genuine efforts to support community go unseen either. Like we do so much, not just like collaborating with local businesses, but we do so much to give back to local organizations. And, even with everything that Jess is going through now, like we're really focused on raising as much money as we possibly can for the American Cancer Society, because that's who Jess and I are, and I feel like with so many different things, like there is not a time when an organization doesn't reach out to us where I won't give a donation or like I won't donate a raffle item, no matter what. I feel like everybody reaches out to us all the time and I'm always like, yeah, sure, take
I'm always
whatever.
a yes. I'm like, oh, you're like nursery school 4 hours from the hot yoga spot. Yes, here's a gift card. Do you know what I mean? Like always, always.
Yeah.
No, you understood my question perfectly.
Yeah.
Because I was really curious when we were talking before we started recording, just kind of getting a sense of like over time, who your customers are, how you can better serve them, and also how you can learn from maybe you open a certain store and it's not doing as well as you'd like. I'm curious because we were talking about this. What has been that process like for the two of you when you look at your sales numbers or just where a store is and trying to figure out what we need to do to adjust to better position or better market?
Yeah, I think everything is data driven, right? And you have to be very intentional about the data that you collect. So we obviously, we collect customer data just through like our loyalty program. We better understand how many people visit us multiple times a week versus once a week. And then we can do a deeper dive into, okay, what's that customer like? Are they male or female? I think we collect birthdays too. So it's, we get to learn a little bit more about that individual. But I think even a step further is to send surveys out to our customers and ask the questions that we want the answers to, right? And then we can collect that data and use it the way that we need to. I think one of the most interesting things, like we sent out a survey a couple months ago and we asked people, how many times do you visit Bear on a weekly basis? And I thought everybody was coming in here like 3-4 times a week, right?
I knew they were not coming in here 3-4 times a week.
I was like, yeah, everybody's coming all the time. And people were like, oh, like once or twice a week, I think
or once or twice a month.
A month, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. So that to me, like, you reflect on that data and you're like, well, what does that mean, right? How do they view us? Are they viewing us as a meal? Are they viewing us as a treat? Are they like, and then you can start to nitpick and go down a million rabbit holes after that. But that, and then also just like the different menu items that are purchased for us specifically. I mean, we look at like, okay, what items are the most popular and like what percentage of our sales come from a variety of different items, so then we can tweak based on that.
Well, you've given me an idea for a question because I grew up in Vermont, home of Ben and Jerry's, and I'm with Jess and Annie now. So the Ben and Jerry's factory has a very famous flavor graveyard where you can see all their flavors that bombed with their customers.
That's so funny.
Wow, we should put the flavor graveyard
well,
up on
that's
this
what
wall.
I was going to
The wall's not big enough.
Well, what I was going to ask you, because I
many
know you nerd out on food. And so I'm curious for both of you, was there a menu item that you were convinced would be so popular that just bombed?
So many.
There's a menu item that I was obsessed with.
Key lime
and
pie
I was
smoothie.
and I was the only one getting it, and we took it off the menu.
She's the only one.
And I loved it so much.
I think one week we looked at like total sales across the brand. It was like 3. All of them were
I
just
got it
fuller.
3 times this week, so those were me.
I'm just gonna pitch a Bear Blends flavor graveyard and have it be its own tourist attraction.
I think we should post it on this wall. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
We're like thinking about artwork. You know.
But of your things that you
Do you
do have
remember
on
the
the
Cookie Me Crazy? People actually loved it. We got
They
rid of
loved
it
it.
because
was
the
that?
cookies were not as healthy. That was the very first location.
Yeah.
But there was sugar, like added sugar in the
There was
cookies
like
that
cookies
went on top.
on top of a smoothie bowl.
And we just decided it didn't like fit with what we were trying
We were
to
like,
serve the
it's really-
community. But that was a great bowl.
It was
Cookie Me
good.
Crazy was so
It
good.
was like a cookies and cream base.
yeah.
And then it had like crushed up glutino Oreo cookies on top. They were gluten free.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
But they
yeah,
were still
They were
cookies.
cookies. Yeah.
So we had to get rid of it, even though I loved it. Annie
like-
made us get rid of it.
I was like, you know, it's just not the vibe.
Yeah.
People were sad for a while.
Yeah, I'm clearly still salty
Yeah,
about
we're
it. So.
still remembers it. Out of all the flavors that we've thrown into the graveyard. Remember the sunset Savasana with the raw granola?
Oh my God, that bowl was amazing.
I loved that one.
That was an amazing.
That was good.
Amazing bowl.
It had like a raw trail mix
beautiful
on
name,
top.
too.
I know.
That name was me.
Well, I named all the things after like the hot yoga spot.
yeah,
and
all
then
the
I
bowls
remember
at first were like yoga themed.
Asana, Acai,
I
Sunset
know.
Savasana, and then we opened a location in like Clifton Park, and people were like, "Can I have the sunset?" So what?
For the record, there's yoga in Clifton Park, Annie.
No, I know, but it
You're
just
gonna get
like
us
you
some Clifton
know,
Park hate right now.
we weren't like right next door
Well,
anymore.
we
you
were
know,
right
so
next
we were,
door.
yeah.
That's true.
But I get your point because there's an awkwardness as a customer feeling like you have to pronounce the exact name of the menu item precisely. how it's
Nobody can
worded.
pronounce that word.
It's,
No.
you got to keep the
Nobody.
Or
words
Asana
simpler.
when we used to do the Asana Acai.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
How did you two decide on the whole, for lack of a better word, gimmick of the smoothie bowl of the week, and really pushing that? as
Oh,
something?
we had a customer who
We did have a customer. So we'd only been open for like 2 or 3 weeks. It
Like
was a guy
2 or
named
3
Ferdinand. No, it was more than that, but it was
Yeah,
a
it
guy
was-
named Ferdinand. He worked on the back of the plaza and he came in
That was his
every
name.
single day since we opened. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks in, and we didn't have anything on the menu besides bowls and smoothies. And we had bottles of juice. So we were like wholesaling from a different
Yeah,
company at
I think
the
we
time.
had like overnight oats in the fridge. Maybe
No, we had chia pudding.
Oh,
That's what we
yeah.
had in the fridge.
Jess
that I hated.
despises
I was like, Annie,
chia
this is
pudding.
disgusting. Now I love it.
And then in 2025, I brought
I
it
know.
back because
And
now
I'm a
it's
fan.
trendy.
I know.
Right.
Anyway,
Just like
so this
matcha.
guy Ferdinand came in every single day, and after like 2 or 3 weeks, he was like, "I love this place, but like, when are you going to do a new menu? I've had everything on the menu 3 times." And we were like,
20
"We
days.
just opened. What are we doing?" So Annie had the idea. She's like, "What if, in addition to like the menu, we just have one item that's only here for a week? We'll just change it every week. So if somebody's coming every single day, they can mix that in once or twice a week." And literally, it started a few weeks in, and here we are 7 years later, still doing it.
Still doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a vote for the pineapple upside down cake bowl.
That comes back every
It
year.
comes every year.
Well,
It comes
because,
every one of the staples.
because it's one of the best.
It's
Jackie
a good one.
also
Loves that
bowl.
one.
I go nuts for that bowl.
Jackie
It's a good
also.
one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Shout out to Jackie, by the way.
Yeah,
She's the
shout
best.
out to Jackie.
The
She is the
best.
best. She should be sitting here with
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
She is.
She's like sitting here in my
Yeah.
hand and heart as we do it. She's
Yeah.
so good.
yeah. No, she's the best.
Jackie, JB Social, if anybody's looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jackie's the best.
Yeah.
I'm looking
JB's
at every single camera.
Every camera,
Yeah.
JB
every
Social.
camera,
J-
JB
J-
Social.
Jackie, you're not allowed to leave there,
Social,
so.
Pod
Yeah.
4 Studios. Great collab.
Literally.
All right, so you hated Shia.
Yeah,
Was
but
there-
now I love it. I'm
but
a
now
believer.
you love it.
I'm
Have
a
you had
believer.
anything on the menu that you secretly hated but now love?
No.
It's her. The whole menu is her creation.
So yeah, so,
So
it's
it's
hard for me to
different.
be
Okay.
like,
Yeah, she has always been the food part of this business. So the menu is always her.
Yeah.
So she'll put stuff on the menu sometimes. I'm like, oh, I love that, or like, what is that?
yeah.
But she creates the menu.
So thinking about like the food, and we're talking the three of us, like all of us are on the same page about prioritizing health and wellness. But I think for a lot of people, it just feels like they're prioritizing your health and wellness is a choice that they can't make. That it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And I think now of how expensive even fast food has become in, thinking about McDonald's extra value meals or Burger King. How do you approach that conversation with people about just changing the entire narrative? Because I think there's a perception for people that healthy food is more expensive?
Yeah. I think it depends on what context I'm talking about it in. Like I do a lot of volunteer work where I like teach people how to make plant-based food taste good. And there are a lot of like staple, more like commodity things that you can get that are plant-based. They're very nutritious. One of the biggest staples is rice and beans, and it's almost like every culture in the world has some type of combination of like a legume and a grain, and it just has this like teleological significance almost across every single culture in the world. And I think that's amazing because it truly is such a healthy combination. And you know that I could go down a rabbit hole about that, but
She'll talk about rice and beans for 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
So we gotta keep
talk
it
about
moving.
the benefits of them. We'll really get into it, but so I think like you know, depending on the context. But when we talk about it at Bear, I think there are you know like we sell fruit. Fruit is not necessarily a cheap thing, but when you look at something like our smoothies, for example. Right. Our smoothies range from like $8 to $9, and they're very nutrient dense. They're filled with a ton of natural, real, whole ingredients that are fibrous, full of, like I said, a bunch of different nutrients. And that is something that you can consume as a meal that will fuel you for at least half of your day. Right. So when we talk about Bear in the context of the food space and what's available out there, and you look at fast food chains that are selling food that isn't as nutrient dense, that isn't, you know, health promoting for around the same exact price, it's, you know, it's the same. You're going to end up spending the same amount of money. You might as well spend it on the thing that's going to be better for you. Right. So I try to help people make those comparisons. I also feel like it's really important to empower our team to better understand what we're serving and why we're serving it. So we do a lot of work on like our culture at Bear and like explaining to our staff, you know, why we're here, why, you know, what the company is like that they work for, and why this product is really good for the consumer. And I think like there are definitely people who are skeptical about, you know, eating bowls of fruit for lunch, but the majority of customers I feel like are totally on board with our mission, and they totally see it, and they love our product, and our product is delicious. Like not only is it really good for you, but it also tastes really good. So it's not that hard of a sell, you know?
Yeah. And you have a unique perspective because you're operating two businesses that are very linked to each other, at least in thematically, fitness, wellness. How have you seen that evolve for yourself? Like, you know, even from a few years ago, it seems that relationship has really grown like leaps and bounds, people kind of putting those things together, but you've been driving that here locally. What have you learned over the last few years seeing that happen?
Yeah, you know, I think I've seen such a trend. People now want to be healthier. Like I've seen it even just in the time I've owned the hot yoga spot. Like so many people now, even if they're not coming to the hot yoga spot, like they're working out somewhere. They're not sitting on their couch all day, every day. Like they're out there, they're walking, they're going to gyms, they're swimming, they're riding their bike, they're doing something. And I feel like they're also understanding that what they put into their body is really important. And it's like what I said when we first started this. Like I had yogis who were coming to the hot yoga spot doing class and then leaving and like grabbing Burger King on the way home. And I was like, there has to be a better way. Like what you put into your body is so important. Arguably the most important piece of the puzzle. And I think people are getting it now and getting it more than they ever have before. And it's rewarding for me to be able to have businesses that like, and Annie's part of the hot yoga spot. You know, she teaches all the time in Saratoga, and it's rewarding to have businesses that help people. I've always said it. You can own a lot of different types of businesses, and some of them are going to help the community. Some are going to hurt the community. Some are like a little more neutral, but I've always been so grateful that the career path I've been on, and it's one I've actively chosen, is one that like helps people to live a healthier life, make better decisions. I don't take it for granted. That's probably why I've been doing it for so long, and I continue to do it despite anything else going on in my life. But it's been nice to see so many people really prioritizing making good decisions for themselves. And I think the data is out there that, you know, proves why we should do it, and people are responding to it.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too. Like I was going to say that is like, like we were talking about data before, the data's there. And I think now through maybe social media and just through all of these different social channels, I feel like we were joking before about how like so many people have podcasts and so many people are influencers on social media and they have blogs, and there are more resources now than there were before. And I think the data, especially as it relates to nutrition, is more robust, or has become more robust in the last 5 to 10 years than it's ever been before, drawing very clear parallels between longevity and health and what you put into your body. And now people are taking that information and they're amplifying it, and it's becoming more mainstream. So I really think in the last 5 years, the people that have come in here, you know, and we tell them that we offer a plant exclusive menu, they don't necessarily turn away from it. They're like, oh, that's great. There aren't many places that are doing that. And I think I've heard from my doctor, I've heard from my friend, I've seen on social media, whatever it may be, like that is a good option for me, you know? And I think like just in general, people are starting to align with that mission a little bit more.
You've both developed this interesting perspective of being able to kind of see the Bear blends in a lot of different markets, not just the capital region, because you do have franchise locations in other states, Colorado, Massachusetts, Florida. Am I missing any other ones? That's it. What was that like, kind of deciding, okay, this makes sense for us to partner with franchisees in these states? I'm just curious, like the evolution of Bear blends beyond New York, how that's all unfolded.
Yeah, I think we, you know, initially, because one of our very first franchises was actually Colorado. And initially, you know, we were like, yeah, like let's do it. Let's take it out there. And we were excited about it because we were excited to introduce this concept to a new market. And really just learning about what it's like to have a location in a different market has been incredibly rewarding and eye-opening. And we've been able to become better business owners because of that. And I think understanding how that relationship and that business worked in an area outside of the capital region has allowed us to feel confident about opening in other markets too.
So in closing, just thinking in terms of what we want to leave people who are listening to this with. You two have obviously learned a lot. I mean, thinking about you starting as a co-owner with this when you were 22 years old. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
So now approaching 30. I know we were joking about that before.
Do we have
pushing 30?
Oh my God. Jeez, I'm sweating now.
But I mean, it's incredible, like thinking through the life that you've invested into this business and building it out. And a lot of people might be listening to this, watching it, and a lot of them are probably just like you, women in their 30s, 40s, thinking through, what does my life have for me? And can I execute on that dream of opening a small business? So when you look back at everything, what have you really learned?
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing I always say to people when they ask me anything like that is to do it before you're ready. Like, that's the advice I always give. Anytime I'm talking anywhere, doing any type of presentation, I can't tell you how many people over the years have said to me, like, I would love to do what you're doing, but I need to figure this out first. Or like, I think it's amazing. I would have totally done that, but this didn't work out. And I get it. I mean, life is hard. There's always barriers. There's always going to be things going on. I get it. But there's never going to be a perfect time to do anything. And if you wait for the perfect time, the thing you want is just not going to happen. When I opened the hot yoga spot, I was 22 years old. I'd never had any credit in my name. My stepdad had to like co-sign the loan for me to like be able to open the business. I should never have done it when I did it. I wasn't ready, but I did it before I was ready. And here we are 16 years later with like this amazing business that's helped thousands of people over the years. So that's the one thing like that I've learned throughout my entire career. Like, trust in yourself, work as hard as you can, but don't wait till everything's perfect, because nothing is ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. You were 22 years old when you started Hot Yoga Spot, and you were 22. Wow.
That's right.
Match made in heaven.
Look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. A little Jess Fuller on her way right here.
Yes. I'm working on it. I literally say it every day. I'm like, I want to be Jess Fuller. Like, I am working my way into that.
She said it every day until this year. Yeah. I had to.
I can't. Oh my God. And I'll continue to say it many years to come. Yeah, I think very like similarly, you know, I wasn't I don't think that you can plan enough for everything. Like we were talking about it before a little bit, just how there are things that you learn on the path to success that, you know, you're just, I have no idea that I would have to do that, or I would have to figure that out, or I would have to learn how to navigate through that. And so to Jess's point, it's like you're never really ready. You just kind of have to do it. And if you really believe that it's going to work out, if you genuinely like manifest that success, I'm like a big believer in manifesting. I definitely think that, you know, you should just go for it and do it.
In addition to manifesting, though, you have to be willing to work for it.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen so many studios open and close over the years because it's so much work, and any business is so much work. And I think from the outside looking in, people don't know how hard I work. They don't know how hard you work. Like being the business owner, you're the first one up in the morning. You're the last one going to bed at night. Like if the toilet's overflowing, you have to figure it out. If the heat doesn't turn on, you have to figure it out. If like the truck of bananas doesn't show up, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I say like do it before you're ready, because no matter what, there's going to be problems every single day you're going to have to solve.
Yeah.
So you have to be ready. You believe in yourself, work hard, manifest, but like be ready to roll your sleeves up.
Yeah. You have to. Yeah. It's just a constant game of trying to figure it out. But so before you got here, we were talking about how there's this new like trend on social media, and I feel like this is a good time to mention this too, about this whole idea of like passive income.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, you know, you see these influencers or whoever it may be that are like, oh, you know, I created these like digital products and now I sell them and I make $30,000 a month, like passive income, because people are just buying these, right? So, you know, you start to like think about that, and that might be true for that influencer, whoever it may be, but they don't talk about the 10 to 15 years they probably spent building to that point, right? Building that clientele or building that following, or like,
right. Or like the debt they're still in from having to create the prototype for the thing that they're selling or whatever.
Or how much they actually still work on that, right? Or how much they end up spending in ads. And it just like, they don't put it into perspective for the average person. Like, you know, there is really, in my opinion, like you have to work for your reward, right? And there is no passive income.
There's so much confusion over that. I just want to shout out our mutual friend Kristen Saucy Sarasi, who, like myself, is a brand ambassador, and we talk about this because both of us have full-time jobs. Yeah, I mean, she's built up a huge following. Shout out to her, promoting local restaurants and other small businesses. But I think there's just such a warped perception, bringing it back to passive income, of being an entrepreneur and just thinking that it's like this light switch. Like you two have made it your life.
I used to sleep on the studio floor.
Yeah.
When it first opened that first year, I used to take naps on the studio floor because I had 2 other jobs. I was teaching every class by myself. Like, it's so easy to look at somebody in like a snapshot of their business or their life and be like, oh, that's easy, I could do that. But like, nobody knows what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. Even some of the teachers now who like I've been close with forever, like nobody knows what a business owner is doing and the things that are keeping them up at night. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any advice for people who are thinking about starting a small business beyond what we've already covered?
Run. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Run.
No. No, I think, you know, just like, yes, manifest. There is an element of planning, you know, if I think, you know, something that might be helpful for people that are thinking about it is to get advice from somebody who's done it before, like in, you know, in the field that they're looking to maybe start a small business in, maybe connect with people who have built something in a similar space before that they could talk to about, you know, at least a certain aspect of the business, maybe like the finances of it, or like what you need in order to grow and build, and, you know, somebody who could put it into perspective for them from like a realistic standpoint. I think mentorship is great. I think, you know, getting as much like information about what you're trying to start before you start it is very helpful. I definitely believe that people should, you know, pursue their dreams. And if that's truly what they want to do, they should do it. But I also think that you have to be realistic. Like Jess said, like starting a business is no joke at any scale. And I know Bear and the hot yoga spot started as small businesses, but there are so many locations at this point. It's kind of like medium sized, there's a lot going on. So yeah, for
one
sure.
other question that comes to mind, and just thinking about the storytelling of Bear Blends, is both of you are obviously different kind of pivotal points of life. You're battling a cancer diagnosis and thinking through treatment and what that means, and just thinking about that with your family. And you're 29, thinking about it. You're 29.
You got nothing going on.
No, you all sorts of
You're
stuff.
not even married, don't have kids.
Well, you're engaged and you're thinking
Yeah.
about that. But just as yogis, I'm just thinking about this. You have this perspective of focusing on being present as small business owners.
Yeah.
And I think most times you're thinking of a business, you're thinking, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years? I'm just curious, how does that mindset of like being present as yogis like translate to just kind of where you are as business owners right now?
I don't know if it's even just as business owners, but like
people.
every single day,
Yeah.
and this has always been the case, and I think even more so now, but like I try to be present during the day when the kids are in school. Like I'm present and I'm working on whatever it is that we need to get done. But like, I think in being a business owner and a human being, like finding balance is really important. And I said this at something back in March right before all of this started going on. I was speaking at something on behalf of the Albany Business Review, and they were talking about balance and how do you like strike that balance. And they meant it as far as like, how do you get work done when you're a woman and a mom? Because it was a women's event. And I was like, no, how do you have a life as like how do you prioritize being a woman and a mother or a friend or a sister or whatever it is that you are? Like life is short. Life is really short.
Yeah.
Focusing on the things that give you joy, like do your job, do it well, but don't live to work. Like if you love to travel with your friends, make sure whatever career or your business you're opening, whatever you're doing, like you're still going to be able to do that. If you're a mother and you love being a mother and a wife, like make sure that you're finding time for that and prioritizing it every single day. And ultimately, I think that is like the meaning of all of it.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. I think it's more of like a work-life integration than a work-life balance, because I don't like, especially as somebody who owns businesses, it's you can't really turn it off necessarily, but you can certainly decide when you want to spend the time. Like, I don't have kids, and I hope someday I do. But right now, like I have a fiance at home, and there are times when like he travels for work, and I get to be home by myself and I work until I pass out. Like I work as much as I can, but then when he is home and we do get to spend time together, I try to shut things off and just focus on him, because I agree that like the relationships are incredibly important. And I think really early on with any business, you sacrifice some of that to really get it going, but definitely have clarity about where you do want to be at one point, because to Jess's point, like you do have to focus on the other things that fill your cup as well. And I didn't really do that for a long time. I think up until I met my fiance, I didn't do a lot of that. Like I wouldn't actively make time to like go see my family outside of the holidays. And I wouldn't like communicate as much with the people super close to me, because I would focus so heavily on what I was trying to build. And I don't think there's anything like necessarily wrong with that, but reflecting on it now, I'm like, I wish that like I didn't say no to that thing, because I know it meant a lot to a person who means a lot to me, kind of thing. So I think that's really the hardest part, is like the work-life integration piece of it. But I do think that you should be present in all of the aspects of your life that you really care about, and you'll figure out how to make everything a priority.
Well, I can't thank you both enough for being present with me, for sitting down with me, for giving me the opportunity to ask you some fun questions and learn more about what life has been like for you. So thank you for giving me both the bare necessities and the bare essentials tonight. And with that, we'll conclude our podcast.